Hi, I'm Jim DeCola, Master Luthier for Gibson Guitars. Welcome to Gibson's Guide to Guitar Setup and Maintenance. In this episode, I'm going to show you how to replace an electric guitar pickup, in this case a humbucking pickup in a Les Paul model. Before we start, let me kind of back up to one of the previous episodes where I discussed adjusting your pickups. I recommend making sure that you understand how you can adjust your pickups before you even consider replacing a pickup. A lot of times you'd be surprised by the tonal variety you can get by simply adjusting your pickups either higher or lower. And sometimes that may be the answer. But if you've done that and you decide it's time for a new pickup, this is how we're going to do it. First off, you want to loosen your strings, and in this case, just to keep it clean, I recommend removing them. You can try leaving your strings on, but pulling the pickups in and out, you have a greater chance of scratching them. It's just a little messier that way. Once I have my strings loosened, I'm just going to go ahead and clip them and then remove that tail piece. Keep this here. Remove the rest of the strings. Then I'm going to take that bridge off. And a little tip you can do is put a little piece of low-tack masking tape on those thumb wheels to keep them from moving. That way when you reassemble it, it'll just go together a lot easier and you won't have to worry about readjusting your action quite as much. Now we'll remove the control cover. I'm putting all the parts here. I recommend maybe a small dish is handy to keep all your parts together so you don't lose anything, especially the small screws. Now you can see the control assembly. So the pickup we're going to replace is the rhythm pickup. And so I know the rhythm control is here for the volume, and that's where the pickup is soldered. So we're going to unsolder the pickup cable off of this pot. And I know the pickup goes to the outside lug of that pot, and the switch, which has these multicolored wires, go to the center lug of that pot. So I'm going to unsolder the ground, which is the braid or the shield of that pickup cable, and then the black cloth covered wire. So before we actually start removing the pickup and unsoldering it on the pot, I recommend taking a photograph of the control assembly. That way you know exactly where the wires went. I'll first start by unsoldering the shield and lifting it up with my hemostats. I'll let that cool for a second. Now I'll heat that outside lug where the hot wire goes. And now I'll gently pull that out. Now I have the rhythm pickup cable detached from the pot. Now I'll share a little MacGyver tech tip, I like to call them. I'm going to solder this lead to the end of the rhythm pickup cable. The reason why we're putting this long wire on is because I'm only replacing that rhythm pickup. So now I'll uninstall the rhythm pickup. You don't have to do that if you're replacing both pickups. But because the wire channels go under, from the switch through the rhythm, through the bridge pickup, into the control cavity, if you're only replacing the rhythm pickup, you would have to remove both pickups. So I found if I solder a wire to it, I can kind of floss it through. So now the rhythm pickup can be lifted out, and I'll pull that wire and I'll make sure this end stays back here. Now I can unsolder that and replace this pickup by soldering. And now I have, this is a brand new pickup, so the end of the cable, one little detail, is cut flush. So what you want to do is trim that shielding back. So I'm very carefully using the wire cutters to kind of nip the outside of that braid to get it started. If you have wire strippers, you just press them and they clip it. But here, if you don't have, most people don't have those wire strippers, so I'll just kind of nibble that shield back, exposing the black insulation, and you can slide that shield down. That's why it's called pushback wire. Slide it down just a little bit to make sure that you didn't cut through that black insulation. And then you can trim that black wire back, or you can actually push it back as well. Easy way is just to push it back. And then I'm going to take some solder and tin the end of that hot lead. That way it will accept solder better and give you more secure solder connection. Now I'll solder that guide wire back to the hot lead of this pickup. That's secure. Now I'll be able to fish that wire through without having to remove the bridge pickup. And then make sure that you mount that pickup down. If not, you'll flip the guitar over and the pickup will fall out, and you can scratch the guitar and the pickup and cause trouble there. With the new pickup mounted, now we can flip it back over. Clean the tip of the soldering iron. And also with the soldering iron, I recommend using an iron and not a soldering gun. A soldering gun has a little transformer in it. That way, it ramps up its heat a lot quicker. But a soldering gun with a transformer in there, if it gets in close proximity to your pickup, can actually demagnetize it. And they're just harder to work with, just more cumbersome. A good soldering pencil in the 40 to 60 watt range is preferred. This one is 60 watts. It's an old Weller. I've had this for 35 years or so. Great iron. So I prefer 60 watts. If you have a higher wattage, you have more heat and you don't have to heat it up as much. On the flip side, if you have a 20 watt iron, you could kind of use it, but when you're soldering the back of the pot, you'll have to heat it up so much you can cause more damage than if you had a hotter iron and you don't have to apply as much heat, because that solder will touch that surface and flow like it's supposed to without leaving that soldering iron on for a longer period of time. So again, higher wattage within reason, 60 is adequate. 40 to 60 is perfect. Now we're going to reinstall the pickup. So I'll put a little bit of solder on the tip of my iron. It's just a little easier to work with that way. And then I'll apply the solder to the outside lug and push that hot lead inside that loop. Give it a few seconds. Tug on it to verify. You want to make sure that solder flows. You don't want it to be like a round bead. You want to make sure it flows, and that ensures that you have a good solder connection. Now, I'm going to go ahead and tuck that excess wire inside the wire channel, but I'm going to pull up on that cloth braid. That way I have a little bit of slack and nothing will short out. Now, I'll get some more solder and I'll hold down that ground on the back of the pot while I apply some solder, and I'll hold that cable down until that solder flows nicely on the pot. When it flows, you know you have a good solder connection. And I'll give it a few seconds. There's a lot more heat applied to that, so I'll give it 2 or 3 seconds before I remove it. Now it's cooled off. So here you can see we have good flow on that shield onto the back of the pot. That's the ground of the pickup. The black with the cloth insulation is your hot. So now we have integrity on both contacts, and it's tucked inside so it's neat. It's not going to short out on anything, and the job is done at this point. Now that the pickup is installed, we can test our work. You can go through the motions and string up your guitar and test it like you would normally expect, but here's a little tip that we use around the factory. Go ahead and plug your guitar in, make sure your amp is on, turn up all your controls to full, and the pickup we replace is our rhythm pickup, so I'm going to put it in the rhythm pickup selection. Now, I'm just going to use my awl since I have it handy, and it's a steel tip. You want to use a steel screwdriver, steel awl, because the strings are steel and that's how the pickup works. You have magnets inside your pickup that sense that moving steel, hence the whole concept of pickups. So now I'm taking that steel and I'm tapping the top of the pole piece. That's telling me that pickup works fine. You can verify both pickups that way. Just make sure if you're testing the rhythm, switch is in the rhythm. In the treble position, make sure it's on the treble pickup, or you can leave it in the middle and do both. But since I just replaced the rhythm, I'll leave it there. Now we know that's good. Another troubleshooting tip, if you're replacing our pickup with an aftermarket pickup, sometimes they may be different phase or polarity. So if they're multi-conductor pickups, sometimes you can just reverse the hot and the ground if they're out of phase. If they're not, you might have, to check the magnetic polarity. So here's one way to verify the polarity of your pickup. Take your pickup and an analog meter that has a needle readout. Put it on the 1K setting. Pickups are, Gibson pickups are typically, 7.5K to 8.5K for most of our PAF class pickups. Connect the negative lead to the shield of the pickup, and then connect the hot. And now I see that in this case, it's right about 8K. Now I'm going to take that piece of steel and I'm going to tap that pole piece. And when I tap that pole piece, you'll see that needle deflect ever so slightly. In this case, it's deflecting towards the right side. So if you have a pickup that you suspect is out of phase, take that other pickup, do the same. Make sure you have your hot and ground, your black and white from the meter connected to the same hot and ground on the pickup. Do the same test. If they're in phase, the needle will deflect in that same direction. If they're out of phase, one will go one direction, the other will go the opposite. If that's the case, and it's a braided pickup like this with a braided cable, then that would be more invasive and you'd have to flip the magnet on the pickup or remagnetize it to get it back in phase. Another, what we use at the factory to test magnetic polarity, sometimes your pickup is out of phase with regards to the magnet, and sometimes it's the wire direction. So to verify the magnet direction, I have a little magnetometer, and that will tell me on the screw side, that is negative, and on the slug side, it's positive. So that's another tool that you can use to determine what's causing the pickup to be out of phase, and then you can work on it accordingly. If it's magnetic and you want to keep the wires the same, you can disassemble the pickup and flip the magnet. But generally, flipping the wires is the easiest course of action. Now, we also have a lot of models, especially in our modern series, that have quick connect. This is a Les Paul Studio, which has quick connect pickups and control assembly. A lot of players like that because you can swap out pickups without having to know how to solder or have those tools. A lot of players like our original series guitars that are hand-wired, and that's why we offer both. So to replace the pickups on a quick connect, you would open the control cover as you would on any other guitar. And now you can see the quick connect assembly. This model also features push-pull pots that provide coil tapping for each of the humbucking pickups. So another benefit of the quick connect assembly is that it's on a printed circuit board. It still has the same pots that we would use in all our other guitars, CTS vintage taper pots, but they're mounted on a circuit board, so it's a little more robust and offers more electronic features that are a little more durable because of the nature of that construction. For our quick connect assemblies, I'll go to that same rhythm volume control, and right in front of that is a 5-pin quick connect Molex connector. And also, you can see the heat shrink is labeled for that pickup. So it says neck in this case. So all you do is simply pull up on that heat shrink, and that 5-pin Molex connector comes right out of that socket. Now you can loosen the pickup, remove it, replace it, and when you go to reinstall it, you take that same Molex connector, align it in the socket, press it down until it's seated, and that's it. Now you don't have any solder, and it's very clean and very quick. So now you've seen how to change pickups in both hand-wired and quick connect control assemblies. I hope that helps you on your quest for tone. Thanks for watching. Be sure to catch the next episode of Gibson's Guide to Guitar Setup and Maintenance.